Okay, Giora, now
Yep,
we're recording. How are you?
I'm okay. You know that I'm going through periods of terrific pain, very, very difficult.
Oh, that's
Sometimes
so
it
sad.
comes in, you know, catches me in waves. So it may come even as we talk, but
Well, we can
I'll,
stop if you want and start another time. We're recording now, Giora. We're on making the video now.
okay,
So
no
you
problem.
feel okay? Do you feel up to it right now?
Yeah, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, that's better. You see? Okay. Um, okay, so I made a list of questions. What I've done, I realized that I've been lucky to be inspired by contact in my life, friendships with certain artists, writers, and I decided to go back and make a video of various of them. And you're of course right up there. And so I made some questions to ask. Um, but do you want to say anything first before I?
Let me just quiet this talk in the background. I can do it. We have a tenant who is very loud, and I hear him here through an intercom. The intercom is for so that I'll hear the bell ringing downstairs. But okay, let's talk.
Well, I just made I think 3 questions, and I just maybe I'll read them because I don't know if I'll remember the right way to say it. You and I, we met at the Chan Meditation Center in Elmhurst, Queens, and where we practiced meditation together and retreats for many years. And I'm no authority on such matters, but as far as I can see, toward the end at least, in some ways, I couldn't quite put my finger on. You went beyond the famous master we trained under in certain ways, or maybe he slipped behind, something like that. But I ended up respecting you more than I did him in the end. And others, I remember at that time, others who were not, as in my view, as qualified as you were, would go to the master and they would want to get transmission so they could be recognized as masters in their own right. And you were never, it seemed to me, you like me, you were never into that. You went into that game of becoming a Zen master. You were into something, you were pursuing it in a different way. And I think, at least for me, maybe in the beginning I was looking to get enlightened, but later on it came about to be about something else. And I couldn't put my finger on it exactly. Maybe you wonder if you might want to say something about any of that.
Okay, I don't know if I'll be able to answer all of them.
I can't either. It's just an area we can talk in that area.
But the first thing that I want to say, I don't feel myself to be better than Shifu, our teacher, right? Not at all. I mean, he was enlightened and I wasn't. And I could see, I knew that he was enlightened. I had, I don't know, I have like a very, very strong sensitivity to energy of people. And when I, especially after a few days of meditation on a retreat, I would become even more sensitive. And when I pass near people like that, I immediately sense the infinite openness, like as if ancient openness with no end, like there's no person there. But this wasn't completely true about Shifu. He had this, and but basically, I wanted to say you cannot say that anybody is better than anybody else. We are all creatures of the infinite. There's no difference between us at all. We come and we choose some game to play and we play it. Some people choose to get enlightened, some people don't. And
Well,
it's just,
he was. I agree with your assessment. I think he did have that infinite in him, And then, like you say, he also had something else. There was something else in there too toward the end. I remember a certain retreat. I think you left the retreat,
Yeah.
or I don't know. I forgot the exact story.
I didn't leave the retreat. It was a whole story. I started to be upset with him because I saw that he's not, the way he used to be in the small Chan Center. In the small Chan Center, when we had the retreats, there were like 35 people maximum. And they were small retreat and very, very intense. I don't know if you were there.
I remember him that way. That's the way I remember him. And that's the way I really am grateful that I got to be close to him.
Yes.
Later on, when he became really big, I agree with you. There was something different. I sensed it myself. That's why I'm asking you this question.
Yeah. Some weaknesses of his became apparent. And I see this shows that even if you're enlightened, you have still attachments and there's stuff that you have to do. And he became very important figure. He had so many followers, especially in your current country. And it kind of came to his head. You could see that he was proud,
I saw that with my Kung Fu, Korean Kung Fu master too. I saw that same thing happen. In a sense, the people who worshipped him ruined him. And, or at least to some extent, you can't really ruin a person like that completely, but
no.
There's there's an arc that happens anyway.
Yeah, but
I know
on
what
the
you're
other
talking
hand,
about. I've seen it with other people too.
Yeah, on the other hand, every one of us is going through a very unique path. There's no one path for everybody.
Yeah, we know that. That's it goes without saying.
Yes, and so things that happen to us all actually come from our directions. So if from it's.
I know that. That goes without saying.
Yeah, when I say I, it starts from this figure with like a personality that is based on the belief that I am someone.
That goes without saying. I know that.
But it goes on connected all the time, all the way to all that is. There's no any barrier in the middle. And you can say I from any of those levels and like infinite levels in between. You can move yourself. And that's one thing that, you learn along the path, that you can move yourself to be in a bigger perspective.
Well, I have a different perspective than you. I've looked into it, perhaps because I work with dreams and also from meditation and also from writing, creative writing. And I feel that there's me, there's Bill. Okay, now what I am changes over time too. I become more porous sometimes all the different things. But then there's something else. There's something else that's not me. And
Yes.
that can come in. It can come into my writing, to my meditation, and to my work with dreams. And with dreams, of course, you see it very directly because it doesn't come from me. And also because I don't work just with me. I teach students how to use this method, and they figure out their own dreams. And so you're confronted with a student who's completely has no idea what this nonsensical dream means or what's going on in their life in a certain sense. And then after about 3 hours, all of a sudden, the student is connected with something outside of who me is. And the student sees, like a light came into a dark room, and the student sees. They see what the dream is saying, they see what's happening, and that's in meditation as well. So I feel that there can be enlightenment, but I can't say I'm enlightened. I'm just me. I'm the same old me. But now and then, a little piece of light slips through. Now, maybe that's just with me because I'm a very unenlightened person, but I've had light slip in. And then it doesn't stay there. It's not mine. It came from somewhere else.
I think this is the reason why you meditate. Because there was a question that you asked in the end. What is this makes us meditate or want to meditate or become attracted to this.
I think you're right. That's why we meditate. Suzuki said, a lot of Americans think, oh, I want to meditate to get enlightened. But Suzuki says, you think you meditate to get enlightened? No, he said, you meditate because you're enlightened.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to look at it. In other words, and what he means, I think, is if you're enlightened, you realize that light does not come from you. It comes from, maybe it's you, but it's some other you that you really do not control.
Yeah. The thing is, it's a kind of the idea of I is a weird idea. I agree with you, by the way, that there is a unique Bill and unique me, unique everyone. Even when you shed off everything, you still remain unique.
Well, you have your unique experiences. You grew up in Israel. I grew up in Cuba. You know what I mean? I don't speak Israeli. You don't speak Spanish. You know?
No, not only that. I think it's like for me, it's like we are all together. We're like a sun, and every one of us is one ray.
Yeah. Oh, you definitely. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Yeah.
So that ray is unique, even if it's totally clean of attachment.
Yeah, I want to say something though. What I found something interesting in Dream Group. I found that what's unique about me comes not from me. It comes from a group. It comes from the group I work with. In other words, I feel that as human beings, we have, you're right about this idea of the sun. In order for, what's strongest out of me comes from others. And that's one reason I'm making these videos. You're one of them, other people. You connect with these people, and there's like a group mind. Then that group mind speaks through any one of us. And from each one of us, it speaks differently, of course. But it's not just me. It's more than.
I feel like you, that everything that happens, even, you say it comes from other people, but it can come from a flower.
Exactly. Buddha held up a flower, and Ananda got enlightened. He held it up. Nobody else knew what he was doing. And you're right. It can come from a flower. Yeah, it can come from anything. It comes from every flower. That's called the causes and conditions, right? Isn't that what the Buddhists call? In other words, it comes from the whole thing. But it comes out of us, but it comes from the whole thing. So we can't say this is mine. This is my idea. My invention.
Somehow all that we go through, all our experiences come from us, because it's a mirror to the way we vibrate, in a way, to whatever we.
Here's the point. I talked with an artist yesterday, and now I'm talking with you, an artist. But your art is nothing like his. So when you illustrate a children's story, it's so unique and special. I don't think anybody else could do it like you.
They don't, but they can do it like themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It comes from all of us, but when it comes out of you, it's unique. And that's why it's so important for each of us to develop ourselves and pursue our.
To be true to ourselves.
To be true to ourselves.
And it's a process. You become more and more and more, or sometimes less.
Anyway, let me move to our second question, because otherwise we're going to become too philosophical. Let me see what. Oh, here it is. Yes, this is. Upon getting to know each other, we discovered we were both writers, and you were not just a published writer, but an author. A children's book, this is very interesting. A children's book of yours that perhaps touched me the most was the one without any words, a true masterpiece in my view, that never found its way to an audience because the publishing industry couldn't find a category to put it into. Of course, it should be required, this, I really feel this, required reading in every kindergarten, if in every country of the world. If I can use the word reading for a book in which there are no words, a book that with such expressive pictures draws its words and story out from the child, teaching the most important thing any youngster can learn, that real education, real learning comes from inside out, not the other way around. That I wrote that question because that really touched me about you, that book of yours. I wonder if you could tell us about your writing and your art, and maybe even about that book and the story of that book.
The book is full of stories. It's kind of this may be interesting, maybe to tell. I was, I think, in the end of my first year in America, and I already had one book out. My first book in America was out. It's called And Shira Imagined, and I was working on my second book, and I started my habit of, for every book, I actually changed my way of working. Because for some reason, I thought I have to find a way of working that will fit the book. So the second book that I did, I had to wait for paint to dry so that I can start the next paint. Otherwise, they would get mixed up, right? And I was full of energy. I didn't want to sit and wait. So I started to write a story on the side as I was waiting for the paint to dry. But just before that, during the beginning of my work on the book, at that time I was going with my portfolio to different people in New York to try to find work. And one of the places that I liked very much to pass through was the Grand Central Station. And it was winter, and I passed through the Grand Central Station, and I bought myself a cup of coffee in a kiosk that you don't even have a place to sit. You just take the coffee and go away. And as I was standing there waiting for my turn, I looked around, and there was a homeless on the floor with a cup of coffee. It was really cold winter, and he was sitting on the floor, and he had a cup of coffee, and he was shaking. And as he was set his hand to take the coffee, it tipped the coffee off, and it kind of spilled all over him. So I bought 2 cups, and I brought one to him and one to myself, and I went. Right, and that's how the book started. So when I was sitting there waiting for paint to dry, my story started from something like that, from some giving or doing something for people.
Like a pearl grows out of a grain of sand.
Yeah.
The oyster has a grain of sand, and so it builds a pearl around it. So you built a story about this episode.
Yeah, exactly. It started from the feeling of doing something for someone else. And if you remember, there is a homeless person in the book. Like it starts the child.
Oh, you're right. I forgot that there is a homeless person in the book.
Yeah, kind of quite an important position there. But I wrote it in verse for some reason, like a poem. And I worked on it. I was so involved in it that even when I would go to the supermarkets to buy food for the family, I would kind of take something from the shelf, and then I would stop because I had a better idea for the way I wrote the poem. And I would write. I had something, a little book in my pocket always, and something to write. And I continuously was involved with that. It was so intensely absorbing. And then I finished it, and I showed it to the editor with whom I worked on the second book, because I already had connection to her. And she said, wow, it's amazing that you just came to America and you write a poem in English. But you know, something strange about it, the poem, it's written in Old English, like Shakespearean English. Nobody speaks like this today. And then this was the result of when I studied English in Israel in my last year of high school. We studied Shakespeare, and we knew a lot of Shakespeare's language, but it wasn't useful for anything in life. And so for some reason it entered into my writing when I wrote a poem. So I tried to write this story in different ways. I kind of said, okay, not a poem, I'll write it in just a story. And I wrote it, it had several versions and I didn't like any of them. And I knew that the book was good, the idea was good, but for some reason it didn't come out well all the time. Then one day I met with an editor of children's books in another publisher, and we were very friendly. And I decided to tell him, you know, I have this story. I'm sure the story is good, but and I write it and I write it, it doesn't come out good. So I said, tell me the story. I told him the story. And he said, you know, the way you tell it, it doesn't need words.
Oh, you see what I mean? Our best ideas come from other people.
Yeah. And then at that moment, I knew that it was so. I went home and started to work.
Oh.
And it took me a year because it was not I did the work for, you know, for income, like illustrations for newspapers and other books. And every time I had a spare time, I worked on the book. So it took a year. But I took it as an artwork. I didn't want to do sketches. I didn't want to show it. I didn't want other people to be involved in changing it. You know, editors always like to suggest different things. I wanted it to make it finished. So it was finished, and I made a dummy that looked like the real book. I made a few of them, so I could send them to publishers. And then I decided the first one I wanted to show it was an editor that I worked with already at that time on other 3 books, right, in Holiday House. I liked her very much. She herself is a children's writer. And just then she moved to a bigger company and she became kind of a bigger, more important. I called her, I told her, I have a story I want to show you. Okay. I came to her. It was on 18th Street, near where you lived, right? She did something very unusual with me. She accepted me. She read it on the spot and she told me immediately what she thought. And she said, it's not a good book because there's not a hero there. The children will not have anybody to identify with.
The boy is the hero. The little boy is the hero.
Yeah, and secondly, they won't understand so well because there are no words. So, okay, I decided I was very disappointed. Especially, I thought she was like the person who will get it immediately. So I came out to the street, and I decided to find a place to sit and write down what she said, because I knew otherwise I would probably change it in my mind. I wanted to remember exactly what she said.
I like that too. I like exact words. When I get an idea, I write the exact words down. I can't remember.
I wanted to remember, yeah, exactly what she said so that I'll be right about it. And I walked and I saw a restaurant across the street. And as I was crossing the street, a person came to me with an attaché case and was dressed with a suit. And he said, "Will you buy me a meal?" I said, "Yes, sure." He told me that he was looking for work and he doesn't find work and he's hungry. So, okay, I told him, come with me, take whatever you want and I'll pay for it. So we went to the restaurant, he took for himself something, and then he asked, would you also give something for my children? I said, sure, take whatever you want. So he took, and I paid for it, and he left. And then I took myself a cup of tea, and I sat down at the table to write so that I remember. But then I thought, well, isn't this just exactly like the story, the book, in which everybody, one after the other, does something good to someone else, and you never know where it's going to go?
You know what I want to. You know what's happening here is what Jung calls synchronicity. In other words, it's not just that we get ideas from other people. It's that like the world conspires to give us our story. It wants that story to come out, and you're the one to bring it out.
I thought
Go ahead,
so.
Bill. Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
So at that moment, I knew for sure that the book will come out, just because of what you say. And whatever will happen to it, it will come out in the end. And then a whole year, no, I think about 12 years passed without the book being published.
12 years.
12 years. It was rejected by all the big ones. I got a famous agent with the help of my friend, the editor. And she was very enthusiastic about it. Agents are more adventurous than publishers. They dare more. So she liked it a lot, but she sent it around for a whole year, and everybody sent the book back, and they wrote letters, and she would give me the letters that they wrote. And they said basically, the children will not understand. It's hard for them to understand. That's the main thing that they said. So after that, I had 2 other agents that tried also and didn't succeed. And at that time, I would be invited every now and then to schools to talk with children about children's books. So I made my own show. I blew up the pictures of the book on kind of like a poster size, and I had the pile of the pictures, and I would come there. At first, I would do something with them to kind of, I don't remember what I did in the beginning, but I tried to allure them into kind of a open mind situation, kind of. And then I would say, you see, this book, I did all the drawings. I did so much, I don't want to do anymore. You're going to tell me the story now.
Right. Go ahead.
And I would show them the picture one by one, and they would say different things. And so by the end, they would do it so beautifully. They understood, super understood. They would also start to talk about homeless people that they saw and what they told their moms, all kinds of things. It was beautiful, beautiful. There was no question in my mind that they understood perfectly, no problem at all. And I had another experience that also showed me that the book actually will be liked by children. I have a very good friend who is also a children's book illustrator and writer, Doug Florian. I don't know if you know him. And we lived not far away from him, and I would come to visit him, and he came to visit me. So I came to visit him with a book. It was at an earlier time, and it was even pencil sketches. The whole book was pencil. But I kind of made a book to check for myself if it works, because book is a 3-dimensional thing. You move things, and they appear small, big, open, closed. You have a rhythm in that. It's like a little bit like a show, like a movie, because there is movement in it and 3-dimensionality. So
What do you mean 3-dimensionality? Because it's on the page. You turn the pages, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
It's an object. You see only one thing, then you turn the page and you see something else. They can be connected, they can be contrasted.
These are like successive images in a dream. This image, and then you get or like a movie or TV. You get this image and another image and another image, but there's a story that connects them.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I showed it to him, and he had at the time 3 little children, like 3, 4, 5, something like that. Little babies around the table, and they looked at it, they looked. And then when I finished, and he was very nice with them, he kind of let them look as much as they wanted and talk to them. And as it ended, I closed the book, and one of the little girls said, "So now you're going to leave it for us?" So I knew that the children like it. It spoke.
Of course, they like it. It's a beautiful book. You know, I feel I don't have no experience because I never got an agent and I never got a publisher who would look at any of my work. But I have a feeling, and Ursula Le Guin made a video about this on the internet. The industry now is all about money. It's all about the market and money and who do you know and what's your platform and who wants to read it. And I read a book recently about Jane Austen, And she wrote her first book. The last book of hers to be published was her first book. And she wrote it, and the publisher took it. And I think he gave her some small amount of money. He never published it. And she asked if she could get it back to publish it. And he said, you have to buy it back. You have to give me that money back. I don't think she ever had enough money to do that. So anyway, she published her second book with a publisher, and a third and a fourth, and Pride and Prejudice came out, and then she was very famous. And then she paid someone to go to that original publisher and buy that book, and he was so glad to get rid of it. And then after he sold it, he felt very smug. He got his money back, and he said, who is this person anyway? And the agent said, this is Jane Austen, who wrote Pride and Prejudice. And that smacked that publisher right in the face, because he lost big time, because he couldn't accept something new. And she wrote in a way that for women was new. And you're like that too. This wordless book is new. It's something new. Of course you do something new. You practice meditation. You're an enlightened person. And they want the same old thing. They're thinking they want another one of these, another one of those that'll make big money. But you came to them with something new. And that's what I think I'm no expert, but I think maybe they don't know how to do that. You know?
Yeah, they behave like what you said, exactly. You say it's true. But you always have those different people. So the book sat on my shelf here for 12 years. And I gave up on it, not giving up completely, but I started to do different things, and I changed my direction. You know, I decided to go to study art therapy. I became disenchanted with illustration, not because I didn't like it. I liked different aspects of it, but I saw that I was getting jobs that I didn't like. I was getting, newspaper articles about the economy, your money, science.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I wanted something about poetry, about
Right.
literature, philosophy.
America's not about poetry. America's about money. It's really sad.
And I thought that this book, I thought it would succeed and or at least be published. And so I'll know that I can stay in the field and do my things. But it didn't work. So I decided to look for something else. And I became tired of coming up with ideas, because I was very good at coming up with ideas very quickly for the newspapers and all that. But I didn't like the thought that I was spending my life coming up with ideas about stuff that I don't really care about.
Oh, beautiful.
Right?
That's what they pay you for, right?
Yeah. So that's what happened. And when everything was ready and I chose the school that I'll go to and I paid my first money and I had 1 week left, I looked at the shelf and I said to the book, you have your chance now, you have a week. Because after that, I won't have time for you. So I took it. Not far from here, there's a bookstore called Bank Street Bookstore.
Yes, I know that bookstore, Bank Street College of Education.
Yeah, it belongs. They're connected. And I knew that they used to publish books. So I came to the manager of the store, asked to see her, and asked to show her the book. She told me, we don't publish books anymore, but leave it here for me for the night and come next morning to take it. Okay. When I came the next morning, she said, we don't publish books anymore, but go to Long Island City. There is a lady there who publishes children's books. Her name is Deborah Shine. She has a publishing house called Starbright Books, and she will accept it. That's what she said. So I gave her a call. She said, come. I came. She took it on the spot.
Wow.
Deborah Shine. She's actually, she wrote a book with her husband about the Holocaust, but she's doing children's books in her unique way. She runs her publishing house and she does it in her own way. So she was very happy. She sent it to a designer who redesigned what I designed already. She designed it differently, but the drawing weren't hurt. And in the year it was published, it was in 2004. It came out. I was very happy. And after that, this is my most successful book, actually. After all those, as it came out, there were fantastic reviews in the professional journals of, reviews of books for library people and for school people to choose books from. There are special journals that review new books. I had very, very good reviews, and especially Kirkus. Kirkus were usually slaughtering people right and left, but they had a fantastic review. So within a year, the book also was chosen by a Swiss company. There's a Swiss IBBY, Institute of Children's Books, like International Institute of Children's Books for some reason, and they gave it one in 14 worldwide children's book for children with special difficulties. That's the way they defined it. Maybe people who cannot read for some reason. I don't know what they mean, but it became 1 in 14 worldwide children's book. And it appeared in their catalog. And after some time, it started to sell, and I got like $500 twice a year as royalties, maybe sometimes a little more. But after some time, she sold. When the sales start to go down, she sells the rights to publish to a publisher in another country, and that's how she continues to get some money from the book even when it ends. But it continues for many years. I mean, it's still going on. So you have from 2000, it's already 16 years. It's old for a children's book. It's good that it goes so long. So the first other publisher who took it was in Taiwan, your place. And then the next one was in Israel. And the third one is China.
So that's something, China.
China, yeah. I don't make much money because she sold the rights to do. You know, he doesn't pay us royalties. He just pays one time for to buy the rights. But that's how it goes. So this book is my only book that was published in different countries.
Could you show us the book? Do you have the book there?
Yeah. I thought you would want to see it. Yeah. I actually took the one that was published in Taiwan.
No, that's the Taiwan. Oh,
Yeah.
Let me see. Yeah, there's a little boy and a big sunflower. Yeah, a circle of friends.
Yeah.
Do you want to show us the pictures? Do we have enough time to see them?
Yeah, I don't mind. The time depends on you. I have time.
Okay, show us the pictures one by one.
Okay, that's the beginning.
Okay, I'll tell the story. There's a little boy, and the beautiful thing is everything is just drawn, but the little boy's in color, so it attracts the attention. And he's looking out the window, and he doesn't look too happy. He's looking at a world that's sort of black and white. It's not colorful. Go ahead. Go to the next one. My story may not be the same as your story, but this is a strange person, a different person telling the story.
As good as the children. Okay, I'll show the two pages together.
Oh, then he goes to his mother, and his mother gives him something.
Yeah.
I forgot I saw this once, but I forgot.
It's $1.
Oh, it's $1.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. His mother gives him $1.
Yeah.
And so he's got $1. He's run downstairs and he goes to the bakery.
Yes.
I'm beginning to remember now. And it's still in black and white. It's in sketches. And then he buys a muffin. He took one bite, and there's a homeless man on the bench. And
Yeah.
then there's a picture of the boy, which shows what he's thinking. It's his
Yes.
thoughts now. You can see
Yeah.
he's
Exactly.
thinking, he's got an idea.
Yeah.
And you wonder what that is. You turn the page, and he leaves the muffin with the homeless man and runs away. He doesn't wake
Yeah,
him
by the
up.
way, that's what's left of him.
Yeah, his foot. It's beautiful. And these sketches are you. This is the way you draw. It's beautiful. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I love this story, Giora. And the man wakes up, and there's this muffin, and he eats the muffin. Now the man is in color. He's all happy. You get these pictures of the face, you get the feeling of the person.
Yeah.
And he's very happy because he was hungry. This is beautiful, Giora. This is really the story. Wait a minute. Now, the man, give me a second. Oh, the man gives some crumbs to a bird.
Yeah, he looks up, and he sees the birds up in the tree.
And he gives some crumbs there for the bird.
Yeah, here's the birds in the tree.
Yeah.
And he prepares some crumbs on the bench for them
Maybe
to
a
come.
mother with baby birds or something. He puts crumbs on the bench.
Yeah, yeah.
So everybody has something to give, no matter how poor you are.
Yeah.
That's a
It's true.
beautiful statement. I mean, you don't need words for that.
So now, oh, actually I skipped a page.
And the birds come and they eat the crumbs, and they are babies. They give the crumbs to their babies. Oh, this is beautiful. Go ahead. And the way you color it is a genius, You color the energy. The energy is moving through a cycle.
Yeah.
And when the baby flies, yes, the baby eats, and the baby flies, and then he flies away.
And you see that the parents are worried.
Yeah, they do look worried. There's the baby bird.
Kind of,
I don't
standing
remember
on-
this. Is amazing. The memory is so. And then the man takes something out of his pocket. He
Yeah.
gives the bird a seed.
Yeah, exactly. Because they finished the crumbs, everything, no more.
The little bird takes a seed, and there's
And
parents
he
are in the nest. Oh, there he
starts,
is. He's
Yeah.
down there. I forgot all this.
starts flying up, right? And on purpose, I made there it looks frightening. The baby is so small and the tree
Yeah, and
is
his
so
wings
big.
are so small. Will he make it? There's feeling in every drawing. And then he goes up there, and his nest is up there, but he drops the seed.
He stops to rest on the window box,
Uh-huh.
and he drops the seed. It's too complicated to fly and to hold.
It's a big seed for a little bird. That's a sunflower seed.
Yeah.
And the seed falls there on the soil of that window box, and then the bird goes back to the nest with his parents.
Yes. And you start seeing clouds gathering.
Oh, you're right. The clouds now have some color to it. Yeah, the clouds are gathering. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So you use color to direct the reader's attention to what's
Yeah.
going to happen next. Foreshadowing. And now it's raining. It's raining
Yeah.
in the city.
Yes, exactly. Raining, raining, raining.
Umbrella, someone running. Yeah, this is scene. And now the seed sprouts.
Yeah.
And he grows bigger and bigger. And then there's a little hand there. The little boy's going to see it, that it grew in his window box.
Yeah.
This is a metaphysical statement. And the little boy sees a flower, and now the boy has a sunflower, and he's so happy.
Yeah. That's it. That's the whole story.
There's a saying people say, some of the New Age people, they say, what goes around comes around.
Yeah.
And you give something out and something else comes back, and you don't see that it's connected. Oh, Henry wrote a story about someone who got $1 and what happened, or a nickel or something, I forgot, and what happened to that nickel and all the good that it did to the circle. This is an archetype. I can't imagine that people won't understand this.
Yeah. And they did understand. There was no problem. There were, I had many good reviews, but one review said, oh, it's a wonderful story and he knows how to tell a story. I just wish that there was another illustrator.
Why?
She didn't like my style.
I thought it was beautiful, you know.
Yeah, some people liked it, some didn't. So mostly they did.
You know, I think don't pay attention to criticisms like that. That's beautiful. Let me see. I want to. We've been talking a long time here. I want to move ahead on. Oh, okay. My final question. The last time I talked with you, which was years ago, it was years since we met like this. You look just like you always did, and it's been many years. You were filled with fascinating stories of how you had managed to use art to help this individual and that through difficulties. Of course, I'm well aware of the transformative power of pictures because I work with dreams. There is that within us that knows us better than we know ourselves. Week in and week out, I lead dream groups that deliver us up such profound wisdom by revealing the images and dreams to be metaphors for truths about ourselves we hadn't become aware of. Could you perhaps tell us about your different way of working with pictures to arrive at truths that illuminate us with a deep wisdom and guidance that surfaces from deep within? And in other words, could you tell us something about what you've done with the, I guess, with the art therapy? Is it art therapy? It's art therapy?
Yeah. Well, I didn't like the way they taught us how to work because it was based on psychoanalysis. And psychoanalysis is thinking, and the art goes much deeper than thinking.
Oh, I agree 100%. It's the same with dreams. It goes way beyond psychoanalysis and psychotherapy. People don't understand that. Everybody thinks that dreams are Freud, you know. It's not. Go ahead.
In one of my last retreats, I changed my method because I used to work too hard. My focus was so strong, and I started to be sick at that time. It was difficult for me, so I changed my method, and my method was including everything. That was my method. I would sit and kind of expand, and everything felt like inside of me. One morning I sat like this and kind of disappeared into another dimension, because it probably happens to you also sometimes. And when I came out of it, I didn't have any thoughts in my mind, right? This was not new. For long periods, I didn't have thoughts. But a thought came to me as I stood up. It was about to go to breakfast. A thought came to me, and the thought said, now that you've seen that, you know that it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to do anything in the world that is not the most beautiful that you can.
That's beautiful to say that. That's really, you know, Doesn't
Yes.
make any sense not to be your best.
Yes. So I kept it. You know, it kind of hit me. I didn't know what to do with it in some way. But then when I went to study art therapy and I knew that I had to work in a different way, and it just came intuitively. I didn't have to figure it out. I chose to go to work with inmates in a prison because there was no supervisor there and I could do whatever I wanted. I could kind of develop my way. By the way, I'm kind of in strong pain now. So if you see me kind of shaking or stuff like this, it's because of the pain, but I'll
You
try
want
to
to continue at another time, or can you finish this?
continue. It may pass, you know. So the idea, I had a very, very strong sensitivity to visual things. Like when I was about 20 years old, I discovered that I can look at artwork of anybody and I knew how they felt when they did it. It would just come to me. And I knew that it was based on so many elements, on the character of the lines and how shapes behaved near each other, densities and opennesses and composition and colors, everything spoke to me. So this helped me when I was with people and I saw what they did, because I knew what they felt and I could help them find it for themselves. But I looked for a way for people to do it without me.
Yeah, because that's the, you're talking about the inmate in the prison, right?
Yeah, it started there and developed, so I'm kind of talking generally and kind of making it good. So I found that then came the idea about the most beautiful thing, right? It doesn't make sense to do anything that is not beautiful. So I would tell people to make a drawing like only coming from their sense of beauty. So that's how it works. You look at the paper. The paper is already something visual. So everything that you add to it from now on is only something that you feel is beautiful for you. And that's the only criteria. You don't care what you're doing, it will develop on its own, and it always developed on its own. It became intuitive. So I saw that when people worked based on their sense of beauty, they became intuitive very quickly. And they would finish the art, and the art will be telling, very, very telling about what is going on in their subconscious at the moment. The part that usually you don't know what's going on, but you do the drawing and you can find out what's going on inside of you. And the way it works is when you're in an intuitive flow, every now and then you come across something that has associations with something that is threatening to you or unpleasant or blocking. And at that moment, the subconscious jumps into action and tries to save the moment. So the person loses the flow. And you can see in the drawing parts that flow and parts that get stuck, that don't work as a composition. And so I would ask the people to take first of all, I would ask them how do they feel when they look at this? How do they feel when they look at that? How do they feel in every spot? And you can
What do
see
you mean by the subconscious saves the moment?
No. Oh, the subconscious jumps into action when it feels that something is dangerous for the personality.
And what does it do?
It thinks that's the main thing that it does. It tries to figure out what to do. if you don't feel comfortable, the subconscious will invent something, will kind of push some thoughts that you taught yourself that help you, that save
Sure,
you.
that's the conscious mind that does that. That's the left brain does that. It makes up stories. You know what I mean? It doesn't. It's not so truthful. The unconscious just speak. At least we found from work with dreams, just speaks the truth. It's not. It's not tricking you or inventing. Freud's idea was that it did that. But anyway, go ahead. I have a different concept than you. Go ahead.
No, I think the subconscious does automatically everything that he learned from you that it's important for you.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. What we call the unconscious in dreams is we call it the unconscious after Jung. Subconscious was Freud's. The unconscious is different than that. You're right. There is that element. There is that element that we learn something like, you know, bad. We learn something wrong, and then it becomes a habit, and so it becomes what the unconscious in a way. So I know that that's true. That does exist.
95 or more. Most of what we do and think come from the subconscious. Like if we don't catch ourselves, if we are not interested in being authentic, then we are.
Yeah, I feel that well, see, we work with dreams and we have a different mentality. The unconscious is authentic. And to the extent we can get in contact with, we find our authentic self.
Yeah, so for me,
we're talking about a different aspect of unconscious and subconscious.
Yeah, it's like a much wider one. It includes also saying the truth. What you speak about, it includes the bigger aspect. It's kind of a.
See, that's why the images in dreams, it's nobody's playing tricks with anybody. The images are actually crying out the truth. And Freud thought, oh, they're camouflaging the truth because they're defending against this and that. It's bullshit. The image, anybody that works with a dream image, they see that image cries out the truth. It's not hiding anything. It's telling. It's naked. It's naked truth.
Yeah. So in this way, it's actually there is some similarity because those places that don't flow, as long as it flows, it comes actually from the biggest aspect of it. Creativity comes from the big you.
Csikszentmihalyi called that flow. He wrote a book called Flow. And it's about, exactly. Yeah. And it does come from the big you and it is creative and it's new and it's true. But go ahead. You're talking about something. We're just using different terms. We're saying the same thing. Go ahead.
Once you encounter something that is uncomfortable, you stop the flow because you feel uncomfortable and you start to think.
They call that in Zen. They call that this. You clamp up. You clamp up. There's a tension that clamps up, and so when you meditate, you release all those tensions and you unclamp, and the flow, what you call the flow, comes back. Yeah, go ahead. But tell your story about the what you're going to say.
So, I would guide the people through the pictures that they made, different points, and I would ask them to imagine that they stand on the picture like little people, and they collect all the words that come to them on every spot. Like you go to a place, what words come to you? Write them down, chick-chack, like that. And so they would collect, let's say, 20 sentences, short sentences, or sometimes just one word, sometimes two words. Then I would ask them to cut them from the paper, turn them face down so they don't know which is which, mix them like dominoes, and then build the structure of a poem, visual structure of a poem that they like to build, right? And they turn the words up and read it. So what would happen is the text that came, before they read it, they had a chance to fix it so that it will make sense. The sentences will make sense and will be beautiful for them also. So not only the drawing will be beautiful for them, but the sentences, right? Whatever they wrote. And then they read it, and in all the cases, no fail, it always exposed so clearly what was going on in their hidden mind. Just like what you find in the dream, in the images of the dream that kind of tell you the truth about a moment, a situation, what forces work, what is aspirations, what blocks, and all, the whole story. All these things would come out. in the poem. So in this way, people learned to read themselves, to do a drawing.
Well, that's the whole thing. What we're learning, whether it's meditation or dreams or kung fu, whatever we're doing, yoga, we're learning to. When you say read ourselves, we're learning to admit the light into, let the light come in. You know, there's beautiful truths that come out of. And you use beauty. Beauty's always been beauty, truth, and what do they say? Is all we know of. What is that poem? Beauty, beauty, and all we need to know. Beauty is really an important element. And when you meditate a lot, you walk outside, and what strikes you is the beauty of everything. It's just beautiful. You don't see that when you're walking in or clamped up, you know.
Yeah. So it's another answer for you why you meditate.
Another answer for what, Giora? Why you?
Why you like to meditate?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. What happens to me, see, I stopped meditating when I wrote the two books. I just had no time. But I realized I was stupid to do that because I lost everything that was special about me. So I started meditating again. And all of a sudden, I noticed at odd times during the day that this spark of joy would burst out. And I would look around for a reason. There's no reason. It just burst out. Just the joy in whatever it is, you know. And just lasts an instant. But it's such a delicious thing to have happening that it strikes me as stupid not to meditate, and that I stopped doing it because I felt I didn't have time.
But even you know, writing creatively or doing any creative thing brings you the same kind of energy. Of
Exactly, you're right. You're right. You're really right. That's what I thought when I gave up. I thought my meditation would be my writing, and it was. You're right. But I like the cushion meditation too, the Zen. But it's really true. There was a psychotherapist back in the time of Anais Lin who, what was his name? He was her psychotherapist, and he said neurosis arises from the inability to be creative. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, it's true basically, because all the ways that we create suffering in ourselves comes from blocking creative flow.
The blocked energy becomes a disease place, you know. You have to let it. Yeah.
In my story, like this pain, terrible pain that I have, is a habit that I created very young age. I had a kind of quite a striking story as a child. I don't know if you want to hear it.
Well, you have to tell us, because you might not think of it again. It's a long video, but it's worthwhile. Go ahead.
So for some reason, when I was 3 years old or so, I wanted to be the lover of my mother. That's what I felt. And I wanted her to admire me the same way that she admired my father. And there was a war, and my father went to the war of independence in Israel. And I all the time worked to deserve the admiration of my mother. And I had to be a hero. And just then she moved me from the kindergarten of babies to kindergarten of children. Like, I don't know, from age 2 to 3 or something like this. And in that yard of the kindergarten, there was a structure made of metal with kind of all kinds of ladders and different ways, and you could climb up and up and up. And this was the object of my exercise of becoming a hero. So I climbed every day a little bit higher and higher. And one day I stood at the top. I didn't want to go down, and I felt such a hero, right? I thought, it's happening, I'm becoming like my father. That's what I thought. And I know that I had a sense when my father was like a competitor, I wanted him to go away. This was also something that I felt. So as I stood up there and one was a hero, this was my best day in the kindergarten. I came home and it turned out that my father died in the war at that day. He was killed in the war. And I understood it as if it was because of me, because I was going to take his place and I caused him to die. I killed him. And my mother wasn't very talkative, and especially about the emotions. And so nobody talked with me. I saw the shock, the big shock that happened in the house when they learned the news. And I felt that I caused it. And the next day, my mom took me back to the kindergarten of the babies. For her, she thought, I spoke with her about it many years later, and she said that she thought it'll be better if I'll be closer to her workplace and she would be able to, you know, come and visit me during the day. It was like a practical thing. But for me, I meant from it, she understood that I killed my father. And she's punishing me and telling me, you should never grow and try to do this. You should never go after your heart, you know, after your imagination. You should stay small, like that.
Stay small.
Stay small, never pursue what you want, and never succeed, because people die from that. And I took on myself to never succeed, so that I won't kill someone. And I also felt guilty. I felt terrible. Felt like for much of my life I felt it, and it was as I also, if I could cause it to him just by thinking, then who knows what people can, when they discover what I did, what they will do to me. And so becoming, I felt I was being in danger all the time. That someone will discover and do something to me, fight against me and all that. And then I learned that my mom wasn't so, as I told you, not so responsive emotionally.
Not so responsible?
Not so responsive emotionally. To some, she didn't have a sense of psychology, you know. And I saw that when I was sick, she would treat me better if I was sick. And so there were many little reasons for me to be sick. Also, if I'm already suffering, then it kind of saves me from, you know, people will leave me alone because I already paying the price, right? Something like this. And so all of these created a tendency to believe that first of all, that I will be punished and I cannot do anything against it. I felt like the sky, there was something in the sky that knew and was punishing me. All kind of crazy things that a child invents to, because of fear, because of shock.
These
Right?
these crazy things that you call crazy things, these are the tradition of Israel and the religion of Abraham. You know what I mean? And these are the gods of those ancient times in the lands to the east of there. The god of thunder and lightning will strike you down. You know what I mean? And these are the, and this idea about the father, and this is Freud. This is
Yeah.
this is Jewish psychology, and this is and this is
Exactly.
also universal, I think. I think in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that in my case, see, I have a very different story, but I know one thing. I mean, I remember a time when I always wanted to be like my father, so I learned the name of so many plants. And then after the Cuban Revolution, my mother sent us to live with my father. And I ran around naming all the different trees. And what he did is he clamped up and he said, I see, son, you know more than me. And it was like it was a punishment. And I realized I wasn't supposed to know more than him. I wasn't supposed to go beyond him. And actually, to tell you the truth, I feel that in a way, Shifu was like this with the people around him. The people that followed him he did not want someone to be his equal, you know. And I feel a lot of this goes on, Giora. This is a dynamic in the world, and a sensitive child like you must have been. I think you could all, I think you might have been picking up on certain elements that were in the air, you know, not
Yeah,
just from your family, but from ancient times, you know.
yeah, it may very well be. So eventually, when you become aware, more aware, you start to see how things work, and you start to realize that you have been nurturing ideas that cause suffering that you don't need, you don't want them. If you want to be free, you don't want them, and so you start to do stuff to release them. And that's a trip. I think all of us, everyone has some sort of trouble that it as if came to show you that you are not who you really are.
You are not who you really are. This is my big breakthrough with a dream. When I had a dream, what really blew my mind away was to discover that who I really was is not the person that I was being. And I've heard people have this experience also from meditation, from a lot of things. So even from reading, you know, from reading, I all the time when I'm reading, I come across a phrase and I stop and I put the book down and I just sit there. I don't, not even thinking. I'm just like absorbing something, that there's something there more. And I think about these are the developmental things we go through. You know, we all come from particular environments with particular deficiencies. You know what I mean? But as we grow through life, we round out and become whole.
Yes.
And and if you can do it through art like you do it, it's beautiful, because at the same time you liberate other people.
Yeah. So that's it for now. I don't do art therapy anymore. I couldn't. I mean, I worked for many years with the pain until it started to be too difficult, and so I stopped. And I couldn't commit to a schedule, you know, and I had a lot of lack of sleep. I was tired, and it wasn't stopped being pleasant. So now I'm doing a lot of stuff, but I don't know. It's not the same purposeful that it was before, and I feel the lack of it in some way. Everything that I do, even a little drawing, has to do with the same thing, with becoming more clear, sharing whatever I gain, or whatever I learn, whatever I know. It's all the same. Doesn't matter what I do. It's all the same from this point of view. But I'm living now in a different time a little bit. I also learned that actually everything that comes to me in my life, everything that appears, is actually being invited by me. Like the people who came to me to work with me, right, to learn the method and to help themselves. Nobody really needs any help. That's the truth. Everybody is playing their game fully.
Well, I encounter this all the time. Every semester I teach these raw students, undergraduates. We lead a dream group. The class is the dream group, only dreams. There's no lectures and no exams, and we just each 3-hour class is a dream group. And so they come in there, And so some student opens up, they open up their heart and they tell the sad story or the painful story, the beautiful something. It's the story of who they are. In other words, that student has gone down to the depths and come up with a treasure. And what do all the other students do? Well, you should, blah, blah, blah. What you need is blah, blah, blah. They don't give them advice. And so it takes me half the semester to teach these students, do not give advice. That's not part of this process. Nobody needs your advice. None of us are psychotherapists. None of us are qualified to give any of these people advice. These people don't need help. They're helping us. And then toward the end of the semester, the people really begin to realize, holy cow, it's true. All these people that are telling their dreams, they're telling my story. And they're helping us. And that's why I feel so grateful to be a dream group leader. I have this international online dream group now. This helps me more than I think anybody. I really benefit so much. I'm not there to help anybody. Nobody needs help. I mean, I don't need help either. I can do it myself by listening to their dream. It's very true what you say. I think the whole, should I say, racket of psychotherapy doesn't really accept this. Maybe because there are some people who do need help. I don't know. I'm sure there are. I know when I had a problem with my hip, I needed help, and I went to the hospital, and they gave a hip replacement operation. I needed help, and they have expertise, and they helped me out.
Yeah.
So maybe undoubtedly there are levels where some people really do need this. Like, for example, when you were a little boy, if your mother had the least bit of sensitivity, and if she'd talk to you and she'd ask you to draw a picture, like you ask people to draw pictures and talk to you about your feelings or talk to you about your dreams, that could have all been settled and solved. So it's really sad that so many of the people who are parents are utterly unqualified to be parents. And
I think we create it for ourselves. We want an interesting story. We don't want everything to be smooth and easy.
Well, I don't think we have a choice. Things are not exactly smooth and easy. It's not that way. There are wars, people die, fathers die, little boys love their mother, and they don't realize that the way the mother loves the father is a different way from the loves the boy. And probably, I'm sure your mother loved you more than she loved your father. Children don't realize that. I see it all the time. Mothers really do love. It's really something they do. Even animal mothers love their little. I remember when I was a little kid in Cuba, that one of the hens had all these cute little chicks, and I ran over to pick up one of the chicks, and this mother came at me flapping her wings with her beak. I ran away. She's protecting her babies. She's only a chicken, and so they're.
Yes.
I'm sure your mother loved you. She was going through something of her own.
Oh yeah, it was a good shock for her.
Anyway, I've got to pull this to a close. Is there anything else you want to say before we close out? Because we've been talking for an hour. It's been a very worthy hour. I think you touched on so many valuable things.
I think if there is one thing that I learned is to trust what I feel.
Trust what you feel?
Yeah, to trust what I feel. If it feels good, it is good. And if it doesn't feel good, don't do it.
Oh, that's true.
Like that. It's very simple. And that's a simple guide to live. And everybody will have other things that they will like and dislike and all that. And they should trust it.
I find in the dream group, now here's the word problem comes out, but I was saying one of the problems with students, one of the things that we come to working with dreams is so many of them don't trust themselves. They don't believe in themselves. And they work with a dream and it comes out, you see just like you told me your story, and I have a story too. And with these students, such a story comes out of the horrible odds that they've had to surmount to be who they are. And just to hear that story makes you believe in that person, and then to discover that person doesn't believe in themselves. And then when they see other people believe in them, it makes them believe in themselves. And that's
exactly how we start life usually. not believing in ourselves, which is kind of blocking the energy of who we really are from coming into us.
Giora, you said that I wish I could frame those words. We don't, when we don't believe in ourselves, we block the energy of who we are from coming into us.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
I'd like to write that down.
Yeah, when we do that, when we learn to stop distrusting ourselves and trusting.
Stop distrusting ourselves.
Yeah, and start to trust. We open.
Giora, this is, you and I do very different kinds of work, but the same truths emerge, of course.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that I want to end with that. That's so beautiful. I probably forgot it, but it's on this tape. I can see it again and write those words down. Those are golden words. So I want to thank you very much. And I'll end now. Now, maybe in the future, if you want to, we could make a different topic, a different tape. I think you have a lot of wisdom. And so I'm going to close this out, okay?
So it's very nice, Bill. I enjoyed it very much, really.
It's very special.
Yeah.